Good morning. Today we are continuing with those different proportions in real context. Today we are doing CO36. I can use inverse proportions in real context. So remember back a couple of objectives ago, I said the first two will look familiar, but this third one is new. So I really need us paying attention, writing down what I write on the board and not working ahead. So we know what we're doing, we're understanding it, and we're getting it correct. So an inverse proportion is when one value increases the other value. Any guesses? Decreases. Usually with proportions, when one side goes up, the other side goes up. You're multiplying both sides by 5. But with an inverse proportion, one side goes up, the other side goes down. So we could say when one value decreases, the other increases. So they are opposite. They are inverse. That's what inverse means. They are opposite. So one example. Twice as many people do the work in half the time. The more people you have working, the less time it takes to do it, right? So when we think about it that way, we can see how one side increases, the other side decreases. More people working, less work to do, less time to do it. That would be an inverse proportion. Still keeping in mind that they're increasing and decreasing at the same rate because they are proportional. So let's look at how this will work. If we have 9 artists design a project in 6 hours, how many hours will it take 12 artists to do the same work? So let's look at how we would set that up. How would we do our first proportion? How would I write that? What would that rate look like? Grayson?
Unit rate is 9 divided by 6.
So not unit rate, but just the ratio. What would the ratio be?
9 to 6.
9 artists, and I'm going to label it so I can keep it consistent with where I put artists and where, I'm going to do this a little differently. So instead of setting that up as the ratio with 9 artists over 6 hours, I'm going to say 9 artists. Now this is where it's going to be different. So really pay attention to how we're setting this up differently. We had 9 artists to 12 artists. So 9 artists to 12 artists. I'm going to put 9 over 12, keeping the artists on this side. 9 artists take 6 hours. So we have them going across from each other, going diagonally.
No, 12 or 9.
9 artists do it in 6 hours. It's set up differently than what we're used to. So we're going across, like diagonally. So the 12 artists are what we want to know. That's question mark hours or N hours. We don't know how many hours the 12 artists will take. So for inverse proportions, the units need to match vertically, artists over artists, and the values that go together, the 9 and the 6, are set up diagonally. So remember when I said this is different than what we've been working on. So I've got Gabe saying, but wait, that's not how you set it up. That's because it's different. So inverse proportions will be set up differently. We are not going to do a second way. We're just doing the first way and the third way. Let's see who can solve this. How many hours would it take? What math should I do? What's my first step? Jude.
You do 9 divided by 12.
So, hold on. Is there only one way to do this? Fiona just said, oh my goodness, there's 2 ways. Either way will be correct. The way Jude said was we're going to divide first. 9 divided by 12, which you get what, Jude?
You get 7.5 or 7.5.
Okay, that makes more sense. So we have 0.75 equals question mark for the hours, n hours over 6 hours. What would my second step be? Jude?
Multiply it by 6.
Yeah, now I need to multiply both sides by 6. So that way I'm left with just my n hours. What is 6 times 0.75, Jude?
4.5 hours.
So I would get 4.5 hours. There was a different way. People said, oh, no, do it this way. Let's see if we get the same answer. Grace.
So you do 12 n.
It's question mark n. So where are you getting 12n? Think about those 2-step operations. What could we do, Lucas?
So you would start by doing 9 divided by 12.
We just did that. You're doing it the other, what Jude just did. What's another way we could solve it? Claire?
Can't you do 9 times 6?
We can multiply by that 6 first. So we could do 9 times that 6.
64.
Because we have the 6 hours. If we multiply by 6, we're canceling out the 6 hours. So this would get us 54
And then you gotta
divided by 12, which equals our question mark. What's 54 divided by 12? 4.5 equals those hours. Same answer. So you could divide by the 12 first and then multiply by the 6 because we're doing opposite operations with that 6. Or you could multiply by the 6 first and then divide by 12. Either way, you have to do both steps. We know this fraction bar means we're dividing, and we know that the 6 hours was over here, so we needed to multiply by 6 to get the hours by itself. So it's just working out those multi-step equations. Does that make sense? Either way you do it, you get the same answer. There is a third way we could do this, and we could say there are 9 artists in 6 hours, so 9 times 6, and we're going to divide it by the 12, and we get 4.5. So it's not setting it up, it's just doing the math. What I want us to do on this page is we're going to, on this front page, we're going to set it up with our ratios to make sure we're understanding the math. Then on the second page, if you understand the math, you can do that other way. So let's work on this first page together. And again, I don't want us rushing and working ahead. I want us doing it together. We need to show our work. Showing the work, I said we are working on the ratios. So I do not want to see this multiplied by this divided by this is my answer. On this first page, we are writing out the ratios. So 4 bricklayers. So the 4 I'm just going to put a B for bricklayer. In 5 days. 4 bricklayers, it takes 5 days. How many days will it take 10 bricklayers? So we're going to multiply by that 5 days to get it. So it's the day, the days up here by itself. Multiply by 5. So we're doing 4 times 5, and we're going to divide by our 10 bricklayers. So what is 4 times 5? 20. Divided by our 10 bricklayers. How many days is it going to take us? 2 days. So I want to see your ratios set up. And I want to see the work that we're doing. So now our next one, we have 4 technicians. Does a job in 8 days. Notice how I'm setting them up diagonally as I'm filling in my information. How many technicians are needed to complete the same work in 16 days? How am I going to do this? Lucas? I could do 16 divided by 8. So 16 divided by 8 equals 2. So I have 4 technicians over our question mark technicians equals the 2. How do I get technicians by itself? So let me write it up nice and big. 4 technicians over our question mark equals 2 days. What do I do to get the technicians by itself? Lucas? Matthew, we had 16 days divided by 8 days. So we just did the division first. Okay, so Lucas is saying just swap it. Can we ever just swap, or is there another step we have to do? Whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So if we have the question mark on bottom here, we know that 2 is over 1, right? So if we're going to flip to the reciprocal on one side, you have to flip to the reciprocal on the other side. So we would have question mark technicians over 4 technicians. That 2 days over 1, we would put 1 over 2 days. Does that make sense? So Lucas said we have to just swap it. We're going to flip. Now we've got technicians on the top, so we can multiply by 4. Multiply by 4. So those technicians cancel out. 1 times 4 becomes 4. What's 4 divided by 2? 2. So 2 technicians would take 16 days. Do you understand? We can't just swap. You can't just flip one side. Oh, we want technicians on top. We wanted the question mark on top. You can't just flip it by itself. If you're finding the reciprocal on this side, you have to find the reciprocal on the other side and then answer it the way you normally would. Solve it the way you normally would. Did that make sense? We wanted the question mark on top. So if we flipped one side, you had to flip the other side. Jude,
Couldn't you just have done 8 times 4 divided by 16?
what did I say, Jude? There's the two different ways to solve it. There's using the ratios, and then there's just plugging it into the equation. So I said we're gonna do ratios first, so we understand why it works. And then yes, we could use that equation. 4 times 8 divided by 16. So you are correct. 4 times 8 is 32, divided by 16 is 2. But I want us understanding why it works. So yes, you can just do the equation, but not on this first page, because I want us to understand the concept. Claire?
I just did the multiplying, but like I did the work. I put like the labels on it and did the work. That's still okay.
Ratios. On this page, I want to see that you understand how the ratios work. So if you put it in ratio format, then yeah.
I'm just doing the other one. Like that.
So the other way, Claire, was you would take 4 times 8 divided by 16 equals 2. That's not showing me ratios.
No, I did the ratio.
Okay. So as long as you do the ratios, you're good. Okay. Last one. 7 campers put up a tent in 45 minutes. 7 campers took 45 minutes. 3 campers leave. How many minutes would it take to put up a tent the same size? What number do I put under my 7 campers? Grace? Why would I put a 4 under there? It says 3 campers.
Because it says 3 campers.
Oh my goodness, look at that. You need to read your word problems completely. Nobody should be on the second page. We are all on that first page. 3 campers leave. So how many campers are left working on it? There are 4 campers left. Make sure that you are not rushing and that you read your word problem completely. So we know we're going to multiply by the 45. So those cancel out. 7 times 45 divided by 4. 7 times 45, I don't have it written down what that equals, but divided by 44 gives us 78.75 minutes. Any questions on that one? Make sure you're reading your word problems completely. Don't just look at the numbers and say, oh, I know it's 7 times 45 divided by 3 and finding that answer, because you are rushing, you are going too fast, you are not reading what the problem is telling you. Because it's not 3, it's 3 campers leave. So make sure you're taking your time and doing it correctly. Anybody have questions on the way to set it up? Grace?
Do you have to label it when you write it? Like, do you have to write it?
So if you're gonna set it up like this, you don't have to say 4 technicians times 8 days divided by 6. You can just write the numbers, but you do have to label your answer. Okay, so your answer, you have to look back at your question. If we see, oops, not there. See how many technicians, so your answer should have technicians. Make sure that the problem you're doing is actually answering the question. Any other questions? All right, if you are watching at home, we hope you are well. We hope to see you soon. Have a wonderful day.